Welcome to Big Basket Now presents the RCB podcast.
One of the first things that comes to mind when talking about sports technology is the Hawkeye. Owned by Sony Sports, it's changed the way sports data is collected and used. Sony has been at the forefront of technological evolution in sports for many years, and to discuss with us, we have Rufus Hack, CEO, Sony Sports and Hawkeye. Rufus, welcome to the RCB podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm incredibly excited to be here, and having just seen the incredible event that you've had here in Bangalore, it's a real privilege.
How do you think sports broadcast has changed in the last 5 years? Let's dive straight into it.
So sports broadcast is certainly on a journey at the moment. And if you looked at sports 10 years ago, it was very much about just putting the product on the screen. And it was a very lean back, passive viewing experience. Increasingly, sports broadcast is evolving, and it's actually just becoming a lot more data driven. People want to know the stats, the figures. They want to have insight. They want to be immersed more in sport. And whether that's on the live product in terms of the richness of data, and we've done some of that through Hawkeye. We've introduced the wagon wheel in cricket, or the beehive, so you can see where all the balls have been bowled. But people want to have more insight into the game. They want to feel more immersed into the game. And actually, I think that we're on evolution there. And I suspect that actually sports broadcast is changing. And over time, actually, it's going to become much more participative and much more immersive.
What do you think has been the biggest impact in bringing about these changes? Is it the need, or do you feel there's so much of technology to be used that storytelling becomes all the more easier?
I think one of the things that we always start with, particularly at Hawkeye, when we look to introduce technologies, is what is the story that this tells, and how does it help to make the game fairer, safer, and make the product better. And so if we take, for example, our experiences in cricket, in 2004, we introduced a DRS system, so ball tracking for LBWs. We then subsequently introduced Ultra Edge, which is a combination of ball tracking and also the microphone on the stumps. We then introduced Auto No Balls. We've introduced different broadcast graphics. There's other innovations that we're looking to bring in. But ultimately, this is all about how do you make the game better and fairer for the players who play the game. But at the same time, actually, we want to add to the theatre of sport. We want this to be part of the entertainment product. And whether you think about that in cricket and the DRS system, whether you think about that in line calling in tennis, whether you think about that as VAR and goal line technology in soccer, this is all about how do you add to the experience and how do you use the technology, as I said, not just to make the game better and safer and fairer, but also to add to the entertainment product.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
I do feel that technology has taken a lot of the content space at the moment, but is there scope for more? And are we going to see more and more coming in?
So there certainly is. And we're on a bit of an inflection point, I think, in terms of how fans are consuming sports content. And we talk about this once in a generational shift. Like, if you're under the age of 20, there is a 10% less chance you're going to be an avid sports fan than over the age of 20. So sport does have a demographic issue. And that is because we as a sports industry haven't necessarily provided the sports content in a way that younger people want to engage with it in a more immersive, gamified, participative way. And so one of the things that we're actually doing, working actually with a lot of the big US leagues like the NFL and the NHL of this world, is we're taking the data that we collect. So through our skeletal tracking technology that we've introduced, we can collect in sub 1 second latency 29 body parts on an athlete's body. You can then virtually recreate that game in a virtual environment. And so now you've got all of this in a virtual environment. You can watch the game from any angle. You're not constrained by what the producer wants you to see, or the cameras in the stadium. You can watch it from below, from above, from the player's point of view, from the goalie's point of view, from the bowler's point of view. It provides a much more immersive experience. And it's a fan-first experience because the fan can choose how they want to engage with that content. So as I said, this is all about a journey. So 10, 15 years ago, we were just showing the product. Then we started to introduce data insight to make those stories more compelling. And now we're really trying to put the fan at the heart of the broadcast experience and think about how do you make it more immersive and participative, so the fan feels like he is or she is in the game and watching it and immersed, because that's what we all want these days. We don't want the passive experiences. We want those immersive experiences.
Yeah, I think as a viewer, you truly feel you're with the sport, and there are so many ways of making it happen. It's an interactive experience in so many ways as well. Rufus, let's just change the narrative a little. Let's talk about your day at Sony Sport and what your leadership philosophy looks like.
So for me, it's all about trying to be bold and decisive. And I think that's what we need in the sports industry, and that's what we need in business. I always say to our team, if you're standing still in sport, you're moving backwards, because things are changing so quickly. And so I think it's very easy to think, how do we look to increment our way to make things better? For us as a business, and particularly with Hawkeye's, what it's done in the world of sport historically, we should be the people who are looking to disrupt the current model. We should be the people who are looking for more transformative innovation. And that's what I always try and say to our team. Guys, let's think about what is the next big thing that can really help to transform how fans are engaging with sport. And as we talked about, we think there is a real opportunity to use technology to continue to drive the officiating agenda in sports. So we worked with FIFA, for example, on the introduction of semi-automatic offside. We're actually trialing with FIFA automated offside at the Club World Cup, which is happening in Saudi Arabia at the moment. So there's how do you drive transformative change in officiating? There's how do you drive transformative change within consumption, allowing fans to have that more immersive consumption experience. And then I also think there's an agenda around participation.
Yeah.
And how do you get younger fans to play more sports? And I'm not exactly sure of the stats over in India and in Asia, but we know that in Europe and in the US, less people are playing team sports than they were 5 years ago. And we believe that 75% of people who come into a sport do so through playing the sport. So how do we get people
To play the sport.
to play the sport, to get a cricket club in their hand, to get a tennis racket in their hand, to start playing soccer? And so I think, again, technology has a role to play in that by using technology to create these more gamified, immersive communities. And one of the things we've done there, actually, on the Hawkeye side of things, we've introduced a product called iHawk, which is about actually on your phone, you can collect the same data as we have collected for the international game. So you can potentially use it in a grassroots level to collect your stats, your data. You can use it for performance analytics to see where you're bowling your balls, where you're hitting, how much you're hitting through the onside versus the offside. So again, it's just using technology, using data to try and drive transformative change in sport. And so going back to the original question about leadership, for me, this is about being bold, being decisive, and looking to take some big bets, because we do think the sports industry requires change.
And being self-aware as well, I guess, because you did mention about the demographic. The younger viewers are probably consuming sports in a different manner than the traditional way of doing it. So how do you cater to them, and how do you still broaden the horizon?
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
Coming back to how technology is impacting sport, right from the decision of it all, it's making the central decision of whether a person needs to be still continuing to bat or get out of there. A decision lies in the hands of technology. Talk to me about how the impact on live sport has technology brought in centrally.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, because I would argue that technology is never making the decision. Technology is an enhancer and an aid to enable the people who govern the game to make the right decisions. And so even in the cricket example, with DRS or with Ultra Edge, you are still getting the umpire who is responsible for making the call. And so it becomes an aid in terms of the people who govern and run the game to be able to run and govern the game more effectively. And there's always the human element of it. And for me, from an officiating side of things, it works best when you effectively marry the people aspect and the technology together, that's when you get the best results. And that's whatever you're using it for, whether you're using it for officiating, whether you're using it for fan engagement, whether you're using it for performance analytics. It's about using technology as an enhancer and a tool to go back to those principles of making the game better, fairer, and more engaging.
What is the percentage of error and margin of error? Has that come down more than we think it is?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the massive sort of step leaps that we've had, particularly within the Hawkeye business over the last 10, 15, 20 years, is with the advent of generative AI, it's enabled our computer models and our machine learning to become hundreds of times more effective and more efficient. And whether that's for ball tracking, which is obviously how we started within cricket, or actually now skeletal tracking, which is a big focus of ours, where we can track 29 body parts on the player in sub 1 second latency. Actually, once you collect those huge amounts of data, because we're now doing it in 23 of the world's top 25 sports, we do it in MLB, we do it in NBA, we do it with FIFA, we do it with UEFA, we do it in cricket, we do it in tennis. Once you add more data into that machine, the generative AI just gets better and better. And so there's real scale densities and learning effects there that mean actually our models are becoming more and more accurate over time. And that is, I think, a good news for everyone within the world of sport, that it means that right decisions are getting made more often to a higher level of accuracy.
Would you think the future is going to have no interference or no human element at all?
I don't see that as being the case. I mean, if we maybe take soccer as an example, so when FIFA initially introduced the automation of offside, they did so with semi-automatic offside. So it then just became effectively an aid for the referees and the assistant referees to make a decision. Now they're looking to move to automated offside, but you've still got the human angle. You've still got ultimately the referee still has the ultimate say in terms of control and the governance of the game. And I think that's right. You never want to take the human aspect out of the game, but ultimately technology can be an incredible facilitator to make those decisions right more often, more frequently. And also hopefully just to have that objective view of things, so it is calibrated to the same levels in every single game.
बस यही बोलना है, यही तुम्हारा ऐड?
Yeah, that's it.
सही है यार. Now delivering in 10 minutes.
In a sports-rich country like India, where do you see the next big technological advancements happening, Rufus?
So I was actually just speaking to the Crick Heroes guys, and I love what they've done in terms of creating a community around the sport. We all know how partisan and almost like a religion cricket is in India, and actually being here, you see it firsthand. And it's incredible the level of fervour and the level of passion that goes into that. We think that actually there's ways for technology and data to bring those communities together in a really authentic way. And I love what the Crick Heroes guys have done there in terms of creating that community. I think there's more opportunities to build on that and to use technology, as I said, to collect more data, to use it for coaching purposes, for performance analytics, and then also for the community angle. So you can start to share your data. So you can create this Strava for cricket where you have leaderboards where you can put on your own performance and rank yourself versus members of your family or your friends or your competitors. For us, it's all about creating these gamified communities. And I think that is a big transition that the cricket and other sports are probably going to see over the next few years or so.
5 years from now, how do you think live broadcast is going to change in sport, and how much of role does technology have to play in that?
So I do think it will change a lot. And if you look at what is happening with as you referenced, the younger demographics and how they're engaging with sport, if you're under the age of 20s, it's highly unlikely that you have or you're ever going to have a cable subscription. It's moved from the sort of push model where you just get whatever anyone wants to push to you, to a pull model where you're going to pay a la carte for the content that you want. And also you're going to be wanting to consume content in the way that you want to consume it on the platforms you want to consume it in different ways. I mean, there's an incredible statistic I read the other day that 51% of all content that's consumed now is non-live. So lots of people aren't just doing the whole live thing. Actually, they're looking at after, they're doing the highlights, the clips, the snackable content. So I think that that transition will continue. I think broadcast will become, as we talked about earlier, more immersive, more participative, more fan-led. So they get to choose the viewing angles, the commentary teams, where they watch it from. We've actually been trialing something which is very exciting with City Football Group, where we're creating a metaverse environment where you can actually go on and you can watch the City Football Group games, but you can effectively be in amongst the players within the metaverse and you can see them passing the ball around you. So I think those phenomena are going to become increasingly part of the fabric of sport. And for people like me, I'm a 41-year-old established sports viewer. I still love sitting down on the couch and watching 90 minutes or watching a test match or engaging with sport that way. But we need to make sure, like other industries do, that we've got different content experiences for different customers and different ages. And I think that's one of the big transitions that we're making.
Immersive, interactive, IHOC. We could well be living the future right now.
Well, we certainly hope so.
Rufus, thanks so much for spending time with us. Talk to me about your experience being part of RCB Innovation Lab, Leaders India Meet. What did you think of your stage time?
Oh, it's been
interactions.
It's been fantastic. I mean, I've been to the Leaders event in the UK many times at Twickenham, and it's always an incredible event. And I haven't actually been to any of their Abu Dhabi events or any international ones. So actually coming over here to Bangalore has been an incredible experience. I think the way that it's been presented, the caliber of people that have come over, and the passion that everyone has for the sports industry, for continuing to drive change. And very interestingly, one of my big observations is to move outside of just being a cricket country and think about all of these other sports that could be part of the sports landscape. It's been fascinating for me. So I've really enjoyed it. So congratulations to you and your team at RCB for putting on a great event, and also my congratulations to the Leaders team.
I think we'll be going back to this conversation whenever there is an unfair decision that's being taken, or when it takes a lot of time to make a decision.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, Rufus, thanks so much for spending time with us. Look forward, buddy.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Big Basket Now presents the RCB podcast.